The beginning of the movie shows us pictures of child experiments that have been conducted in various countries throughout human history. These experiments have always been kept secret from the commoners and are operated even in the present time. The scene then changes to one such lab in South Korea, where recently a huge disaster has occurred. We see blood splattered all over the facility and the floor littered with bodies of dead children. Taking advantage of this chaos, 2 children manage to make their escape in the dead of the night. The facility workers chase after them through the dark forest, but they only manage to find 1 child. The head of the search, Mr. Choi, takes back the child and reports to Dr. Beck, who is the person in charge of the facility. Although the doctor is disappointed that they lost 1 of the children, she lets the matter go and decides to report the lost kid as dead. Since the kid is an 8-year-old girl who has a fatal brain disease, she won't live long anyways. The lost girl, on the other hand, manages to get out of the forest before collapsing because of her injuries. Thankfully, she's found by a farmer who quickly brings her inside his house and calls in a doctor to treat her. According to the doctor, her injuries will heal soon, but she seems to be suffering from amnesia and may probably never regain her memories. Seeing the poor, helpless girl, the farmer couple feel their hearts soften and they decide to adopt her as their own daughter. And so, 10 years pass in the blink of an eye. The little girl is now called Jae-yoon and is living a peaceful life with her parents. She is well liked in their small town because of her kindness. She is the best daughter to her parents and always helps them around the house. But there are some difficulties that are out of her control. Her family's farm is steadily losing money, and they have just reached a point where they cannot even afford feed for their cattle. Her mother's health is also slowly deteriorating day by day. She has developed signs of early dementia, which makes her forget things often. And even though Jae-yoon is otherwise healthy, she regularly suffers from short but intense bursts of headache. The next day, she joins her best friend, and together they ride the bus to school. Her best friend knows about Jae-yoon's household situation and gives her an idea. She shows her an ad for a national singing competition which offers a large sum of cash prizes to the winner. Jae-yoon is instantly convinced to audition the next day. Awed by her beauty and sweet voice, the judges are immediately impressed. After a successful audition, she returns back to her house along with her best friend. That night, they all gather in the living room to watch her audition on the TV. Jae-yoon's parents are very proud of their daughter, but they start to get worried when the TV plays a scene of Jae-yoon showing off her special abilities to levitate the microphone in order to impress the judges. As it turns out, the experiments she has been through in the past have imbued her with the ability to do some things that humans consider impossible. Her best friend is firmly on Jae-yoon's side and believes that a special skill would make her stand out among the contestants. She takes everything casually, but the parents are still not convinced. After her friend retires back to her room, Jae-yoon stays behind to coax her parents. She gently explains that she doesn't want to be famous and just wants the prize money for her mother's treatment. As soon as the show is over, she would disappear from the limelight and spend the rest of her days with her parents. Seeing their daughter working so hard for her family, the parents finally put their hearts at ease. The next day, Jae-yoon and her best friend run to the train station as soon as their class ends and board a train to Seoul, where the singing competition will be held starting today. Both of them are very optimistic and start sharing big dreams, which attract the attention of the young man on the seat in front of them. He is called Nobleman, and he acts very familiar with Jae-yoon, but she has never even seen this man before. He gets frustrated when he notices that she doesn't seem to remember him and swings his hand like he is about to slap her, but stops it right beside her face. Jae-yoon is very frightened by this event and even begins to tear up. Her friend instantly moves to comfort her, all the while throwing curses at Nobleman. He quietly leaves to another cart after the friend starts causing a scene, but on his way, he bumps into a man and decides to vent his anger out on him. With his supernatural strength, just by grabbing the man's hand, he can break his bones. he quickly snaps his neck and carelessly throws him out of the train. Soon after the train reaches Seoul, Jae-yoon and her best friend rush to the show, where Jae-yoon gives another phenomenal performance. She has quickly become a fan favorite, so she is easily able to advance to the quarterfinals. But because of her popularity, she catches the eye of Dr. Beck. At a single glance, she manages to identify Jae-yoon as the girl who escaped from the lab in the past, and this time, she is fully determined to capture her. While Dr. Beck's heart brews with wicked thoughts, Jae-yoon starts having an intense headache again as soon as the show ends. She locks herself inside a bathroom stall and tries to endure while remembering the hospital checkup she had in the past. After running a few scans, the doctor grimly told her that she is running out of time. At most, she only has about 3 months to live. The only way to treat her is to get a bone marrow transplant from her biological parents, but it is impossible for her, who has no idea who her biological parents are. As her headache disappears, she is found by her best friend, who worriedly leads her out of the building. But as soon as they step out, they are stopped by some mysterious men who try to get her into their car. They look very suspicious and even a little forceful, so the two friends quickly run away in a taxi. But when they reach their town, Jae-yoon finds that nobleman is there with his own group to cause trouble for her and her family. He gives out a veiled threat that she should go back to her parents as soon as possible and then drives away to her house. Jae-yoon jumps into action and anxiously runs to find a taxi. She is worried that nobleman might do something to her parents. By the time she reaches home, nobleman's car is no longer in front of her house. There is only an empty police car that belongs to her best friend's father. This makes her worry even more, so she sprints to her house only to see her parents happily playing cards with their friends. All the adrenaline leaves her body and she slumps down on the sofa, relieved to see them unharmed. At the same time, in another place, Dr. Beck breaks off her partnership with Mr. Choi on her own decision. Mr. Choi is reluctant to leave his position when Jae-yoon, who he considers too dangerous to be left alive, is still roaming free. But Dr. Beck doesn't want to kill her. Instead, she plans to retrieve her to conduct more experiments. Mr. Choi reluctantly agrees with her on the surface, but behind Dr. Beck's back, he is hatching a plan to kill Jae-yoon. The scene switches back to Jae-yoon's home, where her mother's dementia has grown worse. Now she cannot even remember her daughter. Jae-yoon is at a loss on what to do and has a hard time sleeping because of her worries that give her a headache. Suddenly, she gets a feeling that something is going to happen to her mother. As soon as she steps out of her room to check on her mother, she is stopped by a gun aimed at her head. The suspicious people that she met in Seoul have broken into her house, and they all quickly surround her. Jae-yoon insists that she is not the girl they are looking for, but they firmly believe that she is. Through the fear and panic, Jae-yoon enters into a trance and kills all the men with her superhuman speed and strength. After she regains her reason, she is left shaken. As she fearfully looks at her blood-stained hands, Nobleman slowly walks into the room while clapping. He applauds her strength and tells her to go with him. When she stays silent and does not move to follow him, he threatens to kill everyone she knows in town. Left with no other choice, she gives her friend a shaky smile and asks her to take care of her parents. Jae-yoon then slowly follows after Nobleman and gets into his car. He seems to be working for Dr. Beck as he brings Jae-yoon to the laboratory run by her. The people take Jae-yoon into a room where they tightly strap her into a chair. Observing her from the other room is Dr. Beck, who asks her a few questions. But since Jae-yoon has not recovered her memories, the questions are all fruitless. It's not a big deal though, because Dr. Beck has a way to make her remember the past. She orders one of her men to inject Jae-yoon with a liquid which instantly stimulates her brain, helping her recover her memories. She starts remembering her life at the facility where they were experimented on daily. Dr. Beck was the one leading the experiments with a goal to genetically modify the children's brains to give them superpowers. Even among her peers, Jae-yoon was the perfect experiment. She had power and mastery far beyond their expectations, which made her difficult to be controlled. Afraid of her strength, the headquarters ordered for her to be disposed of, but somehow Jae-yoon managed to run away and hide herself for 10 years. Dr. Beck expected her to die because of the headaches, which would explode her brain, but against all odds, she was able to survive. Now that Dr. Beck has gotten a hold of her, she refuses to let Jae-yoon die in vain, so she gives her another injection. The blue serum will stop her headache for a month, but after that, she would need another shot to remain alive, leaving her dependent on the drug. As soon as the drug enters her system and stabilizes her condition, Jae-yoon's entire demeanor changes. She goes from afraid to calm and drops her act. The biggest shock is seen on Dr. Beck's face when Jae-yoon announces that she had never lost her memories in the first place. When she found out that she only had 3 months to live, she auditioned for the singing competition as bait to lure out Dr. Beck. She believed that the doctor must have a cure, so she decided to enact a little play to trick Dr. Beck into curing her. Dr. Beck is suddenly filled with dread, realizing that she played right into Jae-yoon's hands. Jae-yoon easily escapes from her constraints and kills the person guarding her. She then goes into the monitoring room to kill all the scientists and guards around Dr. Beck and demands her for the formula of the cure. Inside another room, Nobleman figures out Jae-yoon's plan and quickly rushes in with his team to stop her. Along the way, he is intercepted by Mr. Choi, who has come along with armed special forces to kill Jae-yoon. Although she is his target, he also plans to kill all the people with supernatural powers, so his group enters a shootout with Nobleman's team. Many people end up dead or injured, but Mr. Choi and Nobleman themselves smoothly escape from the fight and go to find Jae-yoon. Jae-yoon, who is dragging around Dr. Beck to search for the formula, is not even attempting to hide. Nobleman quickly finds her location and starts attacking her. Jae-yoon is confident in her abilities. She quickly fights back and manages to overpower him, but they are not alone in the fight. Mr. Choi appears and quickly shoots down the two of them and then fires a shot to kill Dr. Beck, since he has always hated her. But a single bullet is not enough to stop Jae-yoon. She swiftly heals herself and appears behind Mr. Choi. A normal person like him is no match for her, and she easily breaks his neck. Nobleman, on the other hand, is a superhuman like her, but he also cannot win against Jae-yoon. After killing Nobleman, she moves to look for the laboratory again. She doesn't find the formula, but she is able to find a few doses of the cure, which she brings with her before setting fire to the facility. She goes back to visit her parents and leaves most of the doses for her mother to help with her dementia. When she prepares to leave with a promise of returning, her father stops her to reveal that he has always known about Jae-yoon's power and her violent nature. The time skips to 3 months later, where Jae-yoon appears in the home of Dr. Beck's twin sister, who readily gives her more vials of the cure. A woman with a scarred face suddenly approaches Jae-yoon, and the movie ends when Jae-yoon threatens to kill her if she touches her. And that's a wrap for this movie recap. Thanks for watching.